welcome to week 1 of Sunday School in a Box. Over the next 3 weeks, we are going to have a Sunday school lesson for you online to do at home with your families. And then we are going to look to making a change and bring Sunday school down to the gym area to do family style Sunday school. So just look for the announcement for when that is to start. For the meantime, at church in the gathering room, there are boxes put together, so each family can pick up one of these boxes. And then for every child you have in preschool through 2nd grade, grab a red folder. Every child that you have in 3rd grade through 6th grade, grab a green folder, and then you can follow along and do the artwork projects with us and listen to the story. This week we're doing Noah's Ark. So in the red folder for your craft activity, you will find a rainbow to make. You'll have in the box the materials to put tissue paper to decorate the rainbow, and clouds for the bottom, and glue. Everything you need is in the box. There's also then just some additional projects that your kiddos can do to celebrate the story of Noah's Ark. The older kids, they have some questions. You can either do it where you sit down together and as families, parents, you ask these questions to them and have them answer, or you could have them, if your kiddo likes to journal and write, you could have them write out the answers to these questions. And then the older kids have a piece of cardstock to make a little mini boat. So I am going to read the story of Noah's Ark to you, so you guys can follow along and listen before you do your artwork. A flood and a rainbow, Genesis 6-9. In the centuries that followed the time of Cain and Abel, the human race multiplied. Many followed the example of Cain and turned to violence, so much so that when God looked down upon the earth, he was filled with pain and sorrow. I should never have made humankind, God said. All they can think about is doing terrible evil. The whole world has become corrupt and full of wicked people. God was angry at the ruin of his creation and said, I will remove the people from the face of the earth. I will destroy this wickedness forever. But there was one man, one alone, who pleased God. His name was Noah, and he lived an honest life. He was different from everyone else. Excuse my baby crying. He walked with God each day on the journey of his life, and this is how God decided to save Noah and his family from the destruction of the world. God spoke to Noah and said, I am going to put an end to all the people on earth because of their violence and hatred. You must build an ark of cypress wood, a huge boat with many rooms and a roof. Then you must seal the whole vessel with tar. Noah listened with great astonishment, for God was telling him to build a boat a long way from the sea. God told Noah exactly how to build the ark, saying, put a great door in the side and build lower, middle, and upper decks. Noah nodded quietly. He would obey everything that God told him, to the last detail. Then God said, I am going to flood the whole earth and destroy every living creature. The waters will cover the world, and everything that breathes will perish. But I will make my promise to you, Noah, my covenant forever with you and your family. You will go into the ark, and you will be safe. The floodwaters will not touch you. Noah stood up in fear and awe of the judgment that God was bringing on the earth. And God said, you must take with you 2 of every living creature, every kind of bird, and every living kind of animal, males and females. Take them by pairs into the ark. And take food for all the living creatures and for yourselves. In this way, you must take my creation with you. So Noah did everything that God commanded him. He and his sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, began to build the ark in the desert lands near where he lived. And Noah continued to build, although many people mocked and jeered and said that he was mad. At last, the massive floating box was ready, the strangest vessel on earth. But still there was no rain. The sun shone in a cloudless sky. People who had no respect for God or for Noah continued to laugh. Although Noah warned them, they took no notice. And when Noah began to gather hundreds of animals They were certain that he had gone mad. But the animals came to Noah and his family eagerly. They sensed thunder in the sky long before it sounded and smelled the floodwaters in the air. They hurried in their pairs towards safety, and Noah welcomed them into the ark, where they were fed and watered and housed in their stable pens and hutches. At last, when Noah and all his family, his wife, their 3 sons, and their wives, and all the animals were gathered in the ark, God slammed the huge wooden door shut, and it began to rain. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. The floodgates of heaven opened, and the springs of the deep burst into the desert, and streams and rivers swelled and burst their banks. Rain pelted down like a cascading waterfall over the whole earth. The storm was terrifying. The world was engulfed in an endless darkness, and the wild sea rose to fantastic heights and buried the tops of mountains, so every single being outside the ark perished in the great flood. Only Noah and his family survived. For 150 days after the rain had stopped, the ark floated on the floodwaters and covered the earth, and there was no dry land in sight. But God had not forgotten his faithful servant Noah, and he sent a great wind which swept the waters back. Slowly, the floods began to go down. There was still no sight of land, but the darkness had rolled away. The ark floated slowly on until suddenly Noah and his family felt a shudder. They sprang to their feet as the boat made a loud scraping sound, wobbled and then settled. The ark had come to rest on the top of Mount Ararat. Noah opened the window in the ark and gazed across the huge expansion of water. It gleamed like silver under the grayness of the sky. He could see no sign of life, nor could he hear anything. So he let out a raven to fly across the water, to see if the bird could find anywhere to settle. But the raven returned to the ark. Then Noah took a dove and released the bird into the air to see if she would find a place to perch. The dove circled in the sky, then flew to the far horizon and back. After a long while, she returned. Noah held out his hand and brought her into safety. He waited another 7 days. Then he released the dove again, and this time she returned the same evening, carrying an olive leaf in her beak. Noah knew that the waters were ebbing away from the earth at last, so he let the dove go once more. She did not return, so he released her mate. Then he opened the door, and everyone saw that the waters had flowed back into the rivers and the seas, and all around them was dry land. God said to him, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and their wives. Bring out all the animals, every living creature, and set them free on the earth. Be fruitful, increase, and fill the earth with all your offsprings." So the animals ran, jumped, slithered, and scuttled to freedom, and the birds flew and swooped and dived in the sky, singing and calling to each other. And Noah and all his family knelt down to worship God on Mount Ararat. Then God said, "I will make a promise to you and all your descendants and to every creature that was in the ark. This is my promise. Never again will I cover the earth with water. Never will I devastate the world with a flood that overwhelms every living creature. As long as the world lasts, so will the time and seasons of the year. There will be sowing and harvesting. There will be cold and heat. Summer will turn into winter, and night will follow day. You will know that my promise is sure, because I will put my rainbow in the clouds." At that moment, the most beautiful rainbow in all its shining array appeared and hung over the dark velvet of the sky. Noah and his family gazed up in wonder, tiny figures beneath the glorious arch of light. "My rainbow," said God, "will remind you of my promise to you and every living creature. I will see it, and I will remember the everlasting bond that I have made between me and all life on earth." In the years to come, Noah gazed up at rainbows in the heavens and remembered God's promise. He served God all the days of his very long life. People gradually filled the earth again, but despite all that had happened, once more, a time came when the human race became proud and did not remember or respect the power of God. And that's the story of Noah's Ark. Next week we'll add a song to sing with your family. For this week, again, just sit around, do your project together, and remember that in this time of COVID, when we're kind of trapped in our houses and we don't have as much freedom to go out, that God has died on the cross to also save us from our sins. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
Bye.